Voting for Trump, Cornel West, as much as I love him, RFK Jr., is a vote for Project 2025. Stay tuned, and I'll explain what I'm saying. Hello, everybody. I am attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. Each and every week, we bring you at least one legal analysis of some story trending regarding politics, policies, personalities, or pop culture to empower you with the information you need to defy this unjust legal system and to nullify systemic racism. If that interests you, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell so you'll get notified every time we upload one of these videos. A vote for Trump. Dr. Cornel West, whom I love and respect through the roof. RFK Jr. or the couch is a vote for Project 2025. I want to say it again because I want to be very clear about this. A vote for Donald Trump, Dr. Cornel West, RFK Jr., or the couch, or anyone else except for Joe Biden is a vote for Project 2025. Now, you just need to know that. You need to be clear about that so that you know what you're doing. If you pull the lever for any of those other candidates or decide to sit on the couch, I want you to be clear about that. You need to know that. You need to know exactly what you're doing. Because Project 2025 has published a website telling us exactly how they intend to create an autocratic government for Trump or any other GOP nominee. But at this point, we know it's likely to be Trump. This is a numbers game. This is a pure numbers game. And if the requisite number of votes do not land up in Joe Biden's lap, then Donald Trump will become the president of the United States of America. And with him, he will bring into office Project 2025, MAGA, QAnon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Boogaloo Boys, the Nazis, the Proud Boys, the KKK. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm telling you the facts. Hey everyone, I am attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. Recently, I took a look at our analytics and I noticed something shocking. Many of you watch our videos and I believe you enjoy them, but you haven't subscribed yet. What are you waiting for? Again, I was shocked because I know our content is empowering and informative. Plus, our 2024 goal is to have 150,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Please help us by hitting that subscribe button, especially you young folks. We particularly want to increase our number of young subscribers. Thanks for all your continued support. We appreciate it very much. And you just need to know some facts because a lot of these people out here who got these real big microphones, they're trying to play both sides of the fence. For example, I heard Charlemagne in a New York Times interview today say or strongly suggest that he's voting for Joe Biden because Trump is a fascist and a wannabe dictator. But he's not endorsing Joe Biden. And so he's trying to play both sides of the fence. And I'll just tell you how I feel about that. And I made that clear in the last video that I made, where I said you can't be pro-black and pro-Trump at the same time. But how I feel about Charlamagne saying that he's likely to vote for Biden, but he's not endorsing Biden, to me, I would say, keep your vote. What's really needed here, Charlamagne, is that you get behind Joe Biden so that people will not cast a vote for the couch or, unfortunately, waste a vote on Dr. Cornel West, whom I seriously love and respect. I would seriously consider voting for Cornel West if we were not in such a serious hour in time in our country. And we know right now, a vote for Cornel, a vote for RFK Jr. is going to be a vote for Trump, essentially. I had to explain that to a family member just today. So I gave the illustration. If you have two candidates and two voters, just two voters, just imagine that, two candidates and two voters, and one voter is pledged to vote for candidate A, and the other voter is pledged to vote for candidate B. Now imagine, the first voter votes for candidate A. The second voter does not vote for candidate B. Who wins? Candidate A. So by not voting, that second voter assisted candidate A in winning the election. That's precisely what we're faced with today. And it's why I say a vote for Cornel, a vote for RFK Jr., a vote for Trump, and a vote for the couch. That nonsensical thought, voting for the couch, just not voting, is a vote for Trump. And it's a vote for all the people that he brings. And let me tell you this, he is counting on enough black people doing just that, either voting for Cornel or voting for RFK, because both of those gentlemen are likely to pull away Biden voters. Or if some blacks do, as they have indicated they may do, and not vote for anyone by sitting home on the couch, that is a vote for Trump and everything that he brings into the office. Now, if you think that I am not telling you the truth, let's go back to 2016 when Donald Trump won the election. And let's go back to something that he said after he won the election. So I'm pulling up my iPad. This is December 9th, 2016. Trump says blacks who stayed home were almost as good as those who voted for him. Blacks who stayed home were almost as good as those who voted for him. Why did he say that? Because voting the couch ensured his victory against Hillary Clinton. So all they did was they got enough disinformation out there about Hillary Clinton to run up her negatives in the black community. And that was enough to give Donald Trump the election. Let's listen to a video here by Trump. Listen to what he says.
And the African American community was great to us. They came through bigly. Bigly. And frankly, if they had any doubt, they didn't vote. And that was almost as good because a lot of people didn't show up because they felt good about me.
So there you heard it for yourself. Trump literally gave us his strategy for African American voters in 2016. It was to create doubt so blacks would not vote. Just that simple. Use his surrogates, use black conservatives, use these talking heads, use YouTube folks, use radio personalities to do one thing, create doubt about Hillary so blacks would not show up. And he said, you heard it with your own ears, he said, that's just as good as them voting for me, not voting for Hillary, not voting for the opposition, not voting in this election for Joe Biden. So what are they out here doing? Creating doubt. And that's the same strategy for 2024. It is as plain as the nose on your face. They're creating doubt. That's all they're doing. They're not necessarily having to say that Joe Biden is a bad guy, that Kamala Harris is a bad woman. They're not having to say that. All they need to do is create doubt. And that is precisely what they're doing. And they're betting on that strategy working in 2024 as well. So now we're going to look at an article from the Washington Post that was released just a few days ago, talking about the fact that fewer black voters plan to vote in this election. Let's read a little bit of this article. Fewer black Americans plan to vote in 2024. Black Americans' desire to vote in this year's election is down sharply compared with 4 years ago. Wow. According to a Washington Post Ipsos poll conducted last month, a potentially troublesome sign for President Biden, the poll of more than 1,300 black adults found that 62% of black Americans say they're absolutely certain to vote, down from 74% in June 2020. The 12 percentage point drop outpaces the 4-point drop among Americans overall, from 72% to 68%. Oh, I know Trump was just celebrating when he read this poll here. His campaign to keep blacks away from the polls, he knew was working. All the YouTubers who are telling black folks to vote the couch. Charlemagne, who is saying one thing from one side of his mouth, something else from the other side of his mouth. Oh, it's all working. It is working. Few black Americans plan to vote in 2024. All this disinformation, all this stuff about Joe Biden being Jim Crow Biden, all of this stuff is working on black people. All of it is working and playing right into the hands of Project 2025 and all those other white supremacists who want to set up a dictatorship and place at the head of it Donald Trump, an avid, blatant white supremacist. And some black people are literally falling for this okey-doke. Literally falling for this okey-doke. It's just amazing to me. The drop in turnout interest is sharpest among younger black people who have always been less enthusiastic about Biden and who have now shifted to majority disapproval of his job performance. Overall, nearly 1 in 5 black voters who turned out for Biden in 2020 say they are less than certain about whether they will vote at all this year. And as I was listening to Charlemagne, and he was saying that basically some black voters just feel that Biden has not delivered. He made promises and has not delivered. But, and he acknowledged this, that it's not Biden's fault. It is Congress. Even when Biden and the Democratic Party had control of the Senate and of the House, they couldn't get the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed, nor could they get the John Lewis voting right bill passed, because they couldn't get it through the Senate. Why is that? Because the GOP filibustered it. To overcome a filibuster, the Democratic Party needed at least 60 votes. And if you remember, there were 2 Democratic senators, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, who would not sign on to a lot of what Joe Biden wanted to do. That's not Joe Biden's fault. They had a razor-sharp thin majority in the first place, and they just didn't have the numbers to overcome the GOP's opposition. What is hard to understand about that? And Charlemagne acknowledged it. He knew that's the reason why Biden couldn't get his legislative plan through Congress. But he said the people that talk to him, they don't know that. So all they know is Biden hasn't delivered. And he will not, Charlemagne that is, will not use his platform to educate those voters. Which is why, in my mind, his vote means nothing. His voice is what needs to be heard. He has 5 million people on the Breakfast Club. And if he will not explain that, then that tells me he's a closeted Trump supporter. Now, that's just he may not be. That's just what it seems to be in my mind. Because he's doing exactly what Trump needs for him to do in order for Trump to get reelected. And that is, be quiet. Trump wants a certain percentage of black male voters not to vote. And he wants a certain percentage and specific individuals in the black community, like Charlemagne, Stephen A. Smith, and some of these others, not to say very much about it, and to express all kinds of misgivings about Joe Biden, to run up Joe Biden's negatives in the black community, so that critical mass of black voters vote the couch. And what would that mean? Here comes Donald Trump. Here comes Project 2025. Here comes MAGA. Here comes the Boogaloo Boys. Here comes the Proud Boys. Here comes the Nazis. Here comes Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here comes that whole entourage doing all sorts of things to hurt the very people who assisted Trump in getting reelected. All right, look at this graph. Few black Americans plan to vote in 2024. I just want to keep saying that. And as we see and just read, a lot of that is because of young black voters. Young black voters. Young black voters. I guess those of us of the baby boomer age, we know the capability of white supremacists. We dealt with it. We know their intentions. We know what they want to do. We know what they have done. And we don't trust them. We're not willing to play Russian roulette with them. We want to keep them out of the seat of power because we know what they will do with that power. We're very clear on that. This younger generation does not know, apparently, what they're dealing with. So they just don't have the same sense of danger from these white supremacists as us older crowd do. And I think we've done a poor job of educating these young brothers and sisters because a lot of them are being just flat out bamboozled. And those are the very ones who end up in my law firm, sitting across the desk from me and Chloe, because the system has been rigged against them by the very people that some of them are assisting in winning this election and doing even more damage. This Washington Post article quotes Dietrich Woods. He voted for Biden in 2020, but is on the fence about turning out this year in Michigan, a state Biden won by 2.8 percentage points. He said, quote, "Biden hasn't made things better like I would have thought at this point," said Woods, who identifies as a Democrat and has never been a Trump supporter. Now, what he's obviously talking about is inflation. And we've all dealt with inflation. right? We've all dealt with higher gas price, food price, just inflation. We've all dealt with it. But Biden is not the reason those prices are high. He's not the problem. The problem are those CEOs who have jacked up their prices. Although the prices of obtaining and making and producing their goods have dropped, they still have jacked up their prices and have not dropped those prices. So they are making money while they laugh all the way to the bank, and Biden gets blamed for it. Causing people like Dietrich Wood to say, you know what? I'm not going to vote for Biden this time. I'm going to let these other guys get in. And those are the very guys, Trump and his guys, who want to see those CEOs make even more money at the expense of a Dietrich Wood. Make it make sense, people. This is ignorance. And Trump preys on this ignorance. He counts on it. And not just him, the Republican Party. They don't want people voting. I showed you a tape months ago of a man named Paul Weyrich, who is like the father of the conservative movement. And he talked about how they don't want people voting. That is the last thing they want, people voting. And who is the lowest hanging fruit in terms of preventing them from voting? Vulnerable, uninformed, black people. Quite often, black men. The very people that white supremacists target with their laws and policies and regulations. Yes, it is frustrating, very frustrating to see white supremacists manipulate black people like this. And prey, like I say here in this title, literally prey on the ignorance of some black voters. Dietrich Wood, Joe Biden is not the reason why inflation is the way it is. You may think that he has all of this power, and he does have immense power, but our country is one of checks and balances. And by the way, there are three branches: the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. And they all check and balance the other. Joe Biden can't do anything unless Congress puts it on his desk. And Joe Biden can prevent Congress from doing things by not signing it into law. And the U.S. Supreme Court can strike down what both of them do. Like, for example, Biden and Harris tried to get student loans canceled, which would help disproportionately black voters, because black voters are the ones who have a whole lot of student loans. Biden did that. But that was challenged by the GOP, by GOP governors to be exact. They filed a lawsuit, got it in front of those 6 conservatives, and what did they do on the U.S. Supreme Court? They struck down student loan relief. Yet Biden has continued to work and has canceled a lot of student loan debt. I'm seeing it all over TikTok, people announcing that $80,000, $100,000, $68,000, $50,000 of their student loan has been forgiven despite the U.S. Supreme Court striking it down. But you don't hear about that. Dietrich Wood doesn't know about that. He hasn't heard about that, and it may not even matter to him. And Trump doesn't want you to know about that. These YouTubers are certainly not going to tell you that. They're not going to tell you about Project 2025. They avoid that conversation. They avoid making a video on Project 2025. They don't want you to know that because they want you voting the couch, which, as I said earlier, is a vote for Project 2025. We got to stop letting these people play us. And somebody say, well, what about Joe Biden and the Democrats? They've played us. Listen, that's not true. Not this current day Democratic Party. They have been more pro-black than the GOP by a long shot over the last at least 70 years. Literally. The first black president, first black vice president, first Secretary of Defense, civil rights legislation, the Democratic Party. That's pro-black. Now, you all remember when Darrell Scott, a pastor from Ohio, a huge Trump supporter, said in a meeting with other black pastors who had met with Trump that Donald Trump was the most pro-black president in his lifetime. That's dumb and deceptive and disinformation. I addressed the First Step Act in my last video. But to recap, that was a bipartisan bill that Trump opposed. And not only did he oppose it until he figured out he could sign it into law and then take credit for it, but not only did he oppose it, his Attorney General, Bill Barr, worked against it. So you got a stimulus check. That's another reason why some black folks think he's so this or that. That stimulus package was sponsored by a Democrat. It had bipartisan support. As a matter of fact, the Democrats wanted you to receive more money. But it was the GOP and Trump who blocked it. But Trump took credit for it. You see, I could go on and on and on with his deceptive practices, preying on the ignorance of some black voters. We got to do better. We got to do better. There is no excuse for this type and level of ignorance when you have the internet. We got to do better. Period. We got to do better and stop getting bamboozled by these folks who mean us no good. Come on, folks, we can do better than this. We're smarter than this. We can't let Trump bamboozle us back into the White House. Not only is he a threat to the African American community, but he's also a threat to our country. There are people who work for Trump, many of them. They know him, who do not want to see Donald Trump back in office. I'm talking about Republicans. GOP Republicans are screaming from the rooftop, do not re-elect Donald Trump. Listen to those people, not these black talking heads and YouTubers who, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's their bosses that they work for or whether they're getting a paycheck or whether they're misguided. I don't know what it is, but they're intentionally misleading and misinforming many blacks, which is assisting Trump in getting reelected. Listen to the folks who worked for him. Listen to them. They'll tell you. whether Trump should be reelected. All right, I am Attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. Thank you for listening. Please, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe, like, share, comment, and click the bell so you'll get notified when we upload another one of our videos. Again, thank you for listening. Bye.